So last week, we honored our Girl Scouts, and I couldn't help sharing a couple of humorous comics that I found about Girl Scouts, which of course, most of them were about cookies. So here's the first one. Who is that, everybody? Cookie Monster. And there's two Girl Scouts in front of them, and so what they're saying about that is, none of us has earned a single badge since we got this new troop leader, but our cookie sales are off the charts. And then of course, I like Girl Scout cookies too, and like many of you, I like Thin Mints. And here's what I feel like after eating too many. I don't eat 4, but I do like them. Anyway, so to get back on topic, why we are grateful is my talk today. And one of the things, as I mentioned, I'm grateful that we have our ministerial staff that is able to be up here to help me. And I'm also grateful for the fact that I don't have laryngitis. I got a cold this week. My son gave me one. It wasn't Tom, but my son. And I can feel like my throat is going. So hopefully I'll last through the end of this talk. So we know that it is important to be grateful. Gratitude is emphasized in all our religious traditions, and it's a cornerstone of Buddhism. Today I want to talk about 3 aspects of gratitude. They include the benefits of being grateful, how to develop gratitude in our children, which is important because we have so many here in our Dharma school, and the Shin Buddhist perspective on gratitude. So let's begin. Last year, my husband Tom, who is always finding interesting things for me to read, pointed out this Wall Street Journal article entitled, How to Raise More Grateful Children by freelance writer Jennifer Breheny Wallace. It discussed the benefits of being grateful and how to instill a sense of gratitude in our children. Why gratitude is important in daily life is what we will start with, and there are some benefits. Obviously, gratitude is an attribute we all value. And did you know that November is National Gratitude Month? Which makes sense, of course, because it's our month for Thanksgiving. We value gratitude so much, it is a national holiday and one of our most important. Here I want to show or share a family gathering from a few years back when Tom's mother was still alive. I look at this picture and it gives me feelings of gratitude. Thanksgiving is a time that we are all especially mindful of the things we should be appreciating. But unfortunately, this is the more common situation for most of us most of the time. Notice where everyone is lined up, at the complaint window. And this is probably a true representation of many of our lives. I hope not, and maybe because you come to OCBC, it's not so much for you. From the Wall Street Journal article, I learned about the growing body of research that points to many psychological and social benefits to an attitude of gratitude. People with a grateful disposition are more thankful for a wider variety of things in their lives, such as their friends, their health, nature, their jobs, and their spiritual tradition. And they experience these feelings of gratitude more intensely. Research tells us that gratitude is a mindset, a way of seeing the world. Dr. David Rosmarin, Director of Spirituality and Mental Health at McLean Hospital in Belmont, Massachusetts, and an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School, says that gratitude is also a spiritual emotion, whether it's implicitly or explicitly expressed. In a study published in 2011, Dr. Rose Marin found that general gratitude was associated with less anxiety, less depression, and greater well-being. And those with religious gratitude had an additional boost in all three of those areas. From these studies, we see that a sense of gratitude has significant benefits to our overall well-being. So that's what it does for us. So let's now look at how to develop gratitude in children. We would all agree that having a sense of appreciation for things in our lives is an important trait we want our children to have. Unfortunately, some of the data indicates that we and our children are less grateful than in years past. What are the current perceptions and findings about children and adolescents? We have all heard the complaints about millennials and their attitudes of entitlement. Some of it is attributable to the selfie culture, which often rewards bragging and arrogance. Think about social media and some of the celebrity stars and athletes that young people find so appealing. They consider bragging and, very important or in a way to live. Dr. Richard Weissbaum of Harvard's Graduate School of Education says that sadly, some of the responsibility rests with us parents who bought into the self-esteem movement. As parents, we believe the myth that if children feel better about themselves by praising them, catering to their every need, and making them happy, it will help them develop character. Well, maybe we've gone just a little too far. In this scenario, everyone was someone special. It created in them a sense of entitlement, said Dr. Weissbaum, and that when children are raised to feel entitled to everything, they are left feeling grateful for nothing. Hopefully that's not our children. That's why we come to OCBC. Well, the good news is that you don't have to lose hope because it's not too late and gratitude can be cultivated at any age. Gratitude initiates what researchers call an upward spiral of positive emotions. Adolescents who rate higher in gratitude tend to be happier and more engaged at school and give and receive more social support from family and friends. They tend to experience fewer depressive symptoms and less anxiety, and are less likely to exhibit antisocial behavior such as aggression. Research indicates that the experiences of high levels of gratitude in the adolescent years can set a child up to thrive. Students who were more grateful were better at managing their lives and identifying important goals for their future. When students regularly expressed gratitude, it's a good litmus test that they are thriving. Sounds good. Grateful adolescents enjoy stronger relationships with peers, in part because their positive disposition makes them more attractive and likable. Grateful students were perceived by their peers as having a warmer personality and being more friendly and thoughtful, which, if I think about it, that's a lot of our children here at OCBC. Here's a shot from last year's Buddhist Youth Retreat in Berkeley. So how do we instill gratitude in our children? And how do we instill them so that it becomes a natural part of who they are? This question reminds me of the familiar story of the man who was lost in New York City and stopped a woman rushing by him carrying a violin case. And he asked her, "How do I get to Carnegie Hall?" Her answer, "Practice, practice, practice." And in the case of gratitude, that is the answer. We practice, practice, practice. We become grateful by practicing gratitude, and modeling it for our children is one of the best ways possible. So here's some examples of ways we do it. Here's a book from Dr. Seuss, Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are? I think many of us know this book. How many remember the book I did a while ago, I guess in November? The book Spoon, about the spoon who was envious of all his friends and then came to appreciate his own gifts. And he came to see really how lucky he really was. And then I really like this one. Who's that? Yeah, it's Pooh and Piglet. And the quote for this is, Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude. We hope for our children to come to the same conclusion. So now, the third part, the Shin Buddhist perspective. So we're going to take it in a little bit different direction now. We've just looked at gratitude from the perspective of its benefits to us and to our lives from a very practical point of view. It can help our anxiety and depression, help us make friends, and moderate our emotions. It will help our children thrive and grow positively. Reverend Harada had a BEC class entitled From Practical Buddhism to True Buddhism, and it's a featured course on our everydaybuddhist.org website. I would encourage you to look at it. I think it might be a free class. I would put what I have talked about so far in the category of practical Buddhism, or practical life benefits from a gratitude practice. How do we move gratitude to what Reverend Harada calls the truth level, and how does that tie in with Buddhism? By truth level, we are talking about how Buddhism and a sense of gratitude can affect us to the very core of our being. And let's begin with this quote from someone named Meister Eckhart. Meister Eckhart was a German theologian, and he said, "If the only prayer you said was thank you, that would be enough." So he was a philosopher and mystic from the 14th century. He was a member of the Dominican Order of Priests, and since the 19th century, he has received renewed attention as a great mystic within contemporary popular spirituality. Meister Eckhart was, of course, Christian, and so in that context, prayer is used, but he is speaking about a gratitude that comes from deep within, and in this case, for God. It places the grateful heart at the core of a truly religious Christian person. This quote sounds to me very much like something I once heard from Reverend Tetsuo Uno, one of BCA's most eminent teachers. He has memorably said on more than one occasion this: "On the Shin Buddhist path, gratitude is almost enough." What does that mean? What is the difference? I'm interpreting his words, of course, but I believe that what Reverend Uno means is that in a religious context, a sense of gratitude will take you very far along a spiritual path. And for that reason, it is cultivated and emphasized in Buddhism, as it is in many religions. However, it is also true that a grateful heart is not the aim of the Shin Buddhist path. As I have often told many people, for the same reason, becoming a good person is not the aim of Buddhism. Both gratitude and goodness are the byproducts of a deep Buddhist spiritual awakening. We seek not goodness or gratitude for its own sake, but we must first come to terms with freedom from our ignorance. Buddha means the awakened one. It is a descriptor for someone awakened from delusion and able to see reality as it is. In this context, the truth shall indeed make you free. As Buddhists, we emphasize coming to terms with the truths of impermanence and interconnectedness of existence. We become one with reality as it is, flowing with the changing and creative forces of life, and cognizant that I can only exist as a part of the whole. On the Shin Buddhist path, we discover two truths about ourselves in the experience we call Shinjin awakening. As I come to truly see my flawed and egotistical nature, there is a deep recognition of how truly hopeless my aspiration for Buddhahood is. And yet, there is the absolute promise of awakening that comes from the power beyond the self that makes that impossibility possible. The power beyond the self is another name for Amida Buddha that we have represented on our Naijin. We could also call it reality, truth, existence, life. It is everything that supports, maintains, protects, and loves us with boundless compassion. As Shin Buddhists, we do not identify Amida as a god that directs these beyond us, that directs these things to happen. But anyone who becomes mindful of this power beyond us can appreciate it. It is from this recognition that our gratitude and our desire to live an authentic life arises. It can be a truly mind-blowing experience and realization. So in a nutshell, Shinjin goes something like this. I understand who I am and what I am, and because of that, I don't deserve any of what I am given. And yet, I receive everything I need. When we incorporate that reality into our lives, we are forced into a position of deep gratitude that can almost take our breath away. And that gratitude turns everything we have into enough. This is the end of my Dharma talk. So what else is there left to say but thank you. So please join me in Gassho. The person who attains Shinjin and joy, it is taught, is equal to the Tathagatas. Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Dabutsu, Naman Dabutsu, Naman Dabutsu.